we are going to make our developing chamber right now. So what we have in front of us is a 600 ml beaker. We have our handy dandy glass stirring rod, which will help us get our solution to the center of the beaker without touching the sides. A 10 ml graduated cylinder, 6 molar HCl, and acetone right here, okay? Now our eluting solution is 9 mils of acetone to 1 mil of 6 molar HCl. Then we're going to put it in our beaker and we're going to cover it with nothing more than our saran wrap. So let's start off by measuring those 9 mils of acetone first. So this is a nice little squirt bottle. We are literally just going to squirt and fill up our graduated cylinder until we get to 9. So we're going to take our time, gotta let it really refill, and we're just going to keep going until we get up. Sorry, these are safety vented. Take a little while to fill. Almost there. And our meniscus is at the bottom of the 9, so we're good. Now we're going to fill in with 1 mil of 6 molar HCl, or hydrochloric acid. Just so you know too, this pipette is graduated. This is a 3 mil pipette, so here would be 3, there would be 2, and then 1 is at the bottom. But we're going to be adding up to here, so just have an idea of how much is in the pipette to begin with, which will help us not overfill here, but we're going till we get to the 10. And we need one more drop. Gotta go a little lower to get the solution. Okay, so there we go. We're going to cap this and move this out of the way. Don't want to have an acid spill. Now we have to fill our beaker. And we don't want the eluting solution to touch the sides, because the last thing we'd want is for our stationary phase to come in contact with that as well. So the way and trick to do it is we're going to pour down a stirring rod so it goes straight to the bottom. So I'm going to hold the stirring rod into the center of the beaker, and I'm literally going to just pour the solution down the stirring rod, and it fills up without wetting the sides at all. Pretty neat. And we'll just take that out, put it aside, and the last thing we need to do is we need to cover this, and then we can put it in the fume hood so we're not smelling any of those vapors. So our developing chamber is ready to go. This is part 4. We are going to set up the stationary phase for our paper chromatography. So the main thing when you touch this special paper is you have to be wearing gloves, okay, because we don't want the oils from our hands having any issues or interacting with the paper itself and our face. Our paper is already pre-cut for us. It is approximately, and I'll take out my ruler, 20 centimeters long by 10 centimeters high. And what we're going to do is we're going to go up 1.5 centimeters from the bottom, and we're going to put a line and then draw it all the way across. So I'm going to take out a few rulers to work with me. So, pardon me as I move the paper on you, but I'm going to switch this way to make my life a little easier. We're going to line up that bottom edge with the 1. We're going to go to the 1.5 mark, which is right here, and we're going to put a little pencil line. Now we are going to take our longer ruler, which will make it a little easier for me. And we want to make sure that we're on that line, but we also have to be even with the paper, so we can make sure we're 1.5 all the way across. And we're going to draw our starting line. Okay? So now we're up 1.5 centimeters. Now what we have to do is we are going to put a little X every 2 centimeters, so we can then, we're going to spot on our ions to test. And we're going to see how far they travel eventually. So we're going to go every 2 centimeters and put a little X. So we're going to start at the edge, and we'll just at least make a little mark so we know where we're going. So 2 centimeters would be here. Here's the first one. Then we're going to go 2 more centimeters. That would put us at 4, 6, so we've done 3. This will be number 4. Then we'll have 5, 6, 7, 8, and we'll just do 9 just in case. Okay? So we have our marks to know where we're going to put our ions. So let's actually mark out our ions now. So our first ion that we're going to spot is going to be our Mn. So we're just going to write Mn. And remember, we're doing all of this in pencil, because if we put ink, then the ink is going to travel up and defeat the purpose. Pencil will stay. Then we're going to do our iron, which is Fe. We'll go with our cobalt, Co, and then our nickel, Ni, and then our copper, Cu. And then we're going to have our unknowns. In this case, we will test 2 unknowns. So we'll put U1 and U2. The next thing that we're going to do now is eventually, I'll make another little short video, is we're going to take our capillary tubes and spot each one. And then we're going to let it dry, spot it again, and we're going to spot it up to a total of 3 times. So this is our stationary phase, and we're basically ready to load. So this was part 4A, and then this is part 4B. We are going to start spotting our ions. So what we're going to use are these microcapillary tubes. Okay, they are glass. We can take our top off. Here's what they look like. A little glass tube. We're going to dip into our solution, and then we're going to dot on to the paper, okay? Now I'd like you to have an idea of what these ions look like by themselves before. So our first one is Mn. So we're going to use MnNO3 2. Okay, and it is a clear solution. We're going to use 1 molar for this. Clear solution. So Mn is clear. We're literally just going to put our capillary tube in. Just going to pull up a little bit, and now we're going to dot right on that X where we had it. And you can kind of see a little bit going. The paper's getting wet, and we're just dotting. So now we're going to move on to the next one. Each time we go to dot an ion, we are going to use a new capillary tube. So the next one we're going to do is iron. We're going to use a 0.2 molar. Here's our solution we're using. And it's this orange color. So we'll fill up, have a little bit of solution in there, and now we're going to dot our ion on. Hold down, you can kind of see we have a little bit of it on the paper. And we're going to do this on another piece of paper to make sure we're really keeping our stationary phase as clean as possible. So we did our magnesium, we did our iron, then sorry, not magnesium, that would be Mg, manganese. We're going to move on to our next one, which is cobalt. Cobalt is this reddish color. Nice, bright red color. We're going to fill up, and now we're going to dot. It's like a reddish pink. We're going to let that sit and dry, and then we're going to dot some more. Spot some more, I should say, not dot. Use some correct terms. The next one is nickel. Nickel in solution, this is a solution we're using, is a nice green color. So we'll put our capillary tube in, draw a little out, and then we're going to spot on the paper on that X, right on that line. So we're putting our green. Now that we have our developing chamber all set, we are going to put our stationary phase in there. So we had to connect the two ends using a staple, but we want to make sure that the paper is not touching whatsoever. So at the top and the bottom, they're not touching, and all of our spots are dry. So what we're going to do is we're going to lift off our plastic wrap. Oops, sorry. And we're going to place in our stationary face. Okay. Cover it back up. And now the true fun begins. Now we just have to let it wait, and we're going to watch and see that this solution, our eluting solution, is going to be taken up. And we're going to stop it and pull it out when it's about right up at the top. And we're going to mark a line when it comes out. So again, we're going to let it draw up the paper, allow it to pull the ions up, and then we'll stop, we'll mark where the line, where the elution front is, and then we'll move on to the next step. So right now it's just waiting. I just want to take a moment and show you. You can kind of see our eluting front is up here right now. And you can see our ions traveling up, which is pretty neat. So here you have our copper, which is almost like a yellow. Our first unknown, unknown A, is looking like a little blue. Our unknown B, you can see this yellow and a green. So there's a green and a yellow as it's being pulled up. If we move to the side, nickel, you kind of don't really see anything happening. You don't really see a color with it. Oh, there's a little hint of green. That cobalt, though, is a real bright blue. Isn't that a little bit of a shocker? And then we have our iron, which is this yellow bit of a streak right at the top, and you're not really seeing any color here for Mn. So Fe has a little bit of yellow. Our cobalt has turned bright blue while in the developing chamber. Our nickel has a little bit of a green tinge to it, kind of towards the top. Our copper is this bright yellow, and then our unknown, we have a bit of a blue streak here, so you can kind of imagine it's going to have a little bit of cobalt in it for A. And for our unknown B, we have this green and a yellow. The yellow is very similar to what you see with the copper, and you have another green, which means maybe it's the blue and this just the yellow and green together, but we'll have to figure out and see what happens later on where the ions go, but they're moving and they are colorful. So I just wanted to show you a little bit of the colors it's going. So our eluting front right now is up to the top, right over here. It's just shy of 2 centimeters away. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it out and let it dry. Again, we don't necessarily want to put it right on the bench top. So we're going to take it out, we're going to unhook it, and then we're going to draw a pencil line on it. So I'm going to just move this down so you can kind of see what we're going to do in the next step. Hopefully you can kind of see me a little bit over here. Yeah, we'll try to make it work as best we can. We're going to pull the top off. We're going to get our pencil ready to go. And now we are going to take our chromatogram off. We're going to unhook over here, lay it down, and we now have to trace this eluting line. Okay, that's our eluting line. That's where we stopped. Now we're going to let this sit and dry. You can kind of see the bands right now. So there's a yellow band up here with Fe. Our cobalt, which still looks blue, you have this blue band here. We have nickel. You can't really see it at the moment, but we have a copper band here that's a little yellow. In our unknown A, you have a bit of a little blue band and a yellow band right at the top. And B, you have a yellow band and a blue band. So you can kind of see where we are. I don't really see anything for manganese at the moment or nickel, but I'm sure they're there. So I'm going to try to move this so you can see. as we took it out. And it's drying. So you can kind of see a little bit of the faint bands here, up here, another one over here. You see those two matching yellow bands. So we automatically know right now the unknown A definitely has a little bit of iron in it. And moving forward, you can kind of see the other. So we're going to let this dry, and then we're going to see if we see any bands appear, and we'll mark them. And then we will also develop it with an ammonia chamber to help those bands pop out a little more. This has dried for a little bit longer, so we can kind of just go over and see what we see. MN, there's no visible band, but if we're looking at that iron, you see that yellow streak and then the congregation really right up at the top where that elution front is. For cobalt, you see this kind of a bluish hue right around here. In nickel, you don't really see anything at the moment. There's a little bit of a green tinge still at the bottom, but we're going to hopefully see if it'll pop out when we do our ammonium chamber. When we're looking at copper, you see this bright yellow. This is kind of like an orangey yellow. Over here you see more of a bright yellow, right around here. So a little bit above where the cobalt would be, you see this copper. And then if we're looking at unknown A, you see a line very, very similar to the iron. Okay, right up at top. And you also see a little bit of a blue hue right here, similar to where you see the cobalt. So we can kind of guess right now that most likely we have cobalt and iron in A. But we're still going to do some further testings. And in B, unknown B, you can kind of see two bands. I know it's a little hard, but there's this yellow band right here. And that yellow spot here is very similar to the yellow spot that is up here with the copper. And then you also have a bluish band here, similar to that cobalt. So we at least know that there's probably at least two cations in each. So far for A, we're pretty sure we are seeing that cobalt and iron, and for B, it looks like we're seeing some cobalt and maybe copper. But we're going to double check in a few minutes. I just wanted to give you an idea. I'm going to take some photos where I will put out the centimeter mark for you. But this is just showing you in general where you can see. We're going to go now and take this to enhance the bands, and we're going to set up a chamber, an ammonia chamber, next. We're going to prepare our ammonia chamber. So we have a 1,000 ml beaker, and here I have just a little bit of concentrated ammonia. I'm going to put it in a small beaker in the center. And what we're going to do now is we are going to put our chromatogram in. Then we're going to cover this up. So our chromatogram is going inside, so it's not touching. I'm going to cover so no one has to breathe in those fumes. Now what we're going to do is we are going to leave this in the ammonia chamber until our bands develop. And what we're looking for realistically is for our copper to have a bright blue band. So we will take it out in a few minutes, but what we should start seeing now is we should start seeing our bands develop with some deeper colors. Okay? And we'll check on it in a little bit. So this is still in the ammonia chamber now, but what's great is we can see a few things. One, our cobalt is turning this almost like a tan pink color. We'll take it off again, but it's more now this almost brownish color. You're seeing iron up here, and ammonia is NH3, by the way. Our iron is still this dark orangey burnt sienna color. Our cobalt is like a brownish pink. Nickel, you still kind of see like a slight green smudge. Here is our copper. That's a bright dark blue. So we're about ready to pull out in a few minutes. And our unknown A, we don't see that dark blue anymore, but we still see overall that dark orange band. And we had a little bit of that other color, that yellowish, almost like a pink. Here, if we're looking at unknown B, again we have a dark blue band, so we know we have copper. And we have, again, that other color in there, probably that cobalt. Okay, so we're developing, we're going to let it sit a little longer, and then we'll move from there. It looks like our nickel is kind of the smudge right up at the top. But we'll give it a few more minutes and pull it out and let it dry. So here's our chromatogram. This is after the ammonia chamber. We're letting it dry, and as it's drying, the colors are a little more persistent that you can see now. Again, we really didn't see anything over here for Mn. Womp womp womp. Oh well, so goes chemistry. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, even in virtual labs. For iron, when we're looking at Fe, you really see it's mainly centered up at the top, right where that lute in front is. If we're looking at cobalt, now you have this kind of pinkish brown smudge right around here as the center. And then if we're looking at nickel, nickel we see it kind of spread out mainly around here, down the bottom, and it goes up to a little bit about here. But again, we want to take the center of the dot, so we're going to just go right here for nickel. And our copper, we have that nice dark blue mainly around here. And then we're going for our unknown A. So our unknown A, we had originally saw two bands. This is a little light and a little hard to see, but this is a pink, like a pink brown, very similar to cobalt, right here. And then we have that dark orangey yellow up top. And then for unknown B, we again have this pinkish brown smudge here and a dark blue band up top here. So these are what we have so far after the